Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. We're going to go through this as quickly as possible. I know everyone's time is really important, so I'm going to move pretty quickly. So you may want to grab a pen and a piece of paper so that you can take some notes as we go through. I always like to start out introducing my family and the reason I do what I do. These are my three grandsons, Jackson, Mason, and Cameron. And pictured in the middle is my daughter, Caitlin, and I also have a son, Joshua, who is Mason's dad. I can relate to you and your childcare woes because I've been there. So welcome, and as I said, be sure that you have a pen and piece of paper. We're going to go through it pretty fast. I'll try not to talk too fast. The webinar is going to really take you through the steps, the 10 steps of finding, hiring, and successfully employing a nanny or a babysitter. Even if you're working with an agency now, you're going to really want to stay tuned. The name of my agency is the Nanny Service, and I am Trish Bass. How we got started back in '97 is when we first launched the Nanny Service. I had my second child, Caitlin, who you just saw in the picture in the middle with Jackson, and I was working as a teacher. I decided to be a nanny so that I could take Caitlin with me if I wanted to do so. It gave me that opportunity to spend more time with her. I'd been a nanny before, and I had wonderful experience as far as being a mom, being a nanny, and being a teacher. So I registered with 3 local agencies, anticipating that I'd get a job really quickly. What I found out is that there was a really big lack of communication with the agencies I registered with. They didn't check my background. They didn't check my references. And I was a little surprised, to say the least. You expect for that to be done immediately. And I quickly took my experience dealing with agencies and realized that I could probably do a much better job, and that I could basically offer families what I would want if I were a mom looking for a nanny, because I could relate to both sides. So 21 years later, here we are. I did have a traditional nanny agency for about 20 years. And honestly, we saw a shift that was coming with the internet and resources that are available. And social media has boomed. And let me tell you, folks, nanny agencies don't want you to realize what a wonderful place social media is to find a nanny. Trust me, they're doing the same thing. So with that being said, we saw a great need for parents that needed to be educated about the process and how do we find a good nanny? What is a good nanny? How do we screen her? What do we do? What's next, basically? So what we're going to talk about is basically there's 10 steps to the process. Again, how and where do you find a good nanny or a babysitter? What about interviewing her? What about references? How do you go about doing that? Background checks. What is a thorough background check? Contracts and work agreements. Why are they important and what should they include? Emergency forms. Getting started. What is that magic formula for that very first day? Perfect versus realistic. We're going to talk a little bit about why it's important to have a backup plan. And warning signs. What to look for when you feel like something's just not right. And last, we're going to talk about evaluations and why they're so important for you and for the folks working for you. So step number 1 is to find a nanny candidate. Where, of course, the internet and social media. As I said, it's a wonderful place. Unlimited resources. Some folks are still using Craigslist, the community section on Craigslist. It's free to do so. Free online ads. A lot of TV and radio stations in your community offer these free ads. I'll have to tell you, hands down, my experience so far has been Facebook and Facebook groups for finding nannies and childcare. Seems to be the number one place folks go because it's geographically set up. Twitter's not a bad place to look. Instagram is growing. LinkedIn. Now, once you have basically decided that you're going to hire a nanny and go the social media route, there's 5 things that you need to post in your ad. And I say this because I'm on these groups all the time and I see parents looking for nannies and they always leave out really important information. First, it seems obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. You need to let the nanny know the hours that you are looking for somebody, full-time, part-time, and if you know starting at this time, ending at that time, you need to have that in the ad. Be as specific as possible. She needs to know the number of children that you have and their ages. Location is really important. If your nanny is more than 30 minutes away from you in traffic, it's probably not going to be a good fit. Salary range is crucial. If you are wanting to offer $12 to $13 or $14 an hour and you're talking to an $18 an hour nanny, you're wasting everybody's time. So you need to give a range in that ad and just save yourself some time. If you have any special requirements or your child has any special needs, I would put that in the ad. Step 2 is the interview. So you found somebody that you feel pretty comfortable you want to interview. Should you interview her at your house? I typically interviewed my nannies out in public for the first meeting, but it's really a judgment call. You do what you feel comfortable doing. What do you ask her? Do you have a list of interview questions? Should your children meet her on the first interview? Again, that is totally a judgment call. I've seen parents do it both ways. Meet her first if they're comfortable. Have her come back and meet the kids or meet the children from the first, appointment. It's really up to you. When do you ask for references? I would say pretty quickly, but meet her first and don't waste your time checking references if you don't get a good feeling from her in that first meeting. I always get this question, how personal may I get with the questions? Well, you're hiring somebody that's going to be in your house caring for your most precious little ones. So you can definitely get more personal with your questions than you could in a corporate setting. Honestly, most parents stop right here. They found somebody, they talked to 1, maybe 2 of the references, or they chatted with somebody on social media that she babysat for, and they just assume that they're done. Honestly, folks, this is really where it just gets started. You've got to really think about what's next after that. First and foremost, reference checks. It's pretty easy to fake 1 or 2 references, but honestly, I always asked for 3 personal and 3 professional for a total of 6 references. This is really where the journey's just getting started, and the safety of your child, honestly, is going to depend on you completing all of these steps. I would ask them all the same questions, and I'd have them written down so that you can be consistent and don't forget. I would always note the answers to compare them to what the nanny has told you about that person. Yes, I set for her, this many years, she had this many kids, they were this old, we did this. You want to compare that to what the actual references are saying about the nanny or babysitter. If you're working with an agency, let me give you a little tidbit of information here. Check the references yourself. I can't tell you how many times I've had a nanny come to me that's registered with 1 or 2 other agencies only to call the references and be told you're the first person that's called. So again, skipping any of the steps could definitely put your child in danger, and we don't want that. Step 4, you want to do a comprehensive background check. A detailed background check always includes the following items that are in red. That should be the bare minimum. You want to know the criminal record. You want to verify that Social Security. You want to check that sex offenders registry. The driving record obviously is really important if she's taking your children anywhere. The other checks are just basically the cherry on top. As much information as you can get on this person, the better. Again, we're putting a puzzle together here to make sure all the pieces fit. It's not just one piece or two pieces, it's the whole process. And the reason I say this, folks, is, this is really serious. You don't get a second chance after you've left somebody with your child that's harmed them. I went to abcnews.com just a few days ago, and I just typed in news stories, nannies, and I had a whole page of stuff come up. I just grabbed a couple and put them on the webinar just to kind of give you an idea of some of the dangers that are truly out there. The first one, babysitter charged after allegedly beating a 3-year-old girl and leaving her brain dead. This just breaks my heart. This is going on right now, this trial in Ohio. And Sheriff Richard Jones is actually the investigator. And he says, parents, please know who is watching your children. Get background checks. Talk to neighbors. Talk to friends and family members before letting anyone watch your children. Know who you are leaving your babies with. The second story on the bottom, nanny cam leads to babysitter's arrest. Folks, I'm a huge advocate for nanny cams. And the reason being, a good nanny is always going to do what she's supposed to do. And it's going to give you the peace of mind knowing that she's doing what she's supposed to be doing. I would let her know that you do have a nanny cam, and she needs to be okay with that because it can be her best friend. If your 2-year-old falls down and skins his knee and you question what happened, it's there on film, and everybody is protected that way. But back to the story. This family actually hired a nanny from a nanny agency, which is really sad, but something didn't feel right. They had an infant daughter, and it said she seemed unsettled around the babysitter, and so they became curious and installed a cam just for their own peace of mind. Unfortunately, they thought that maybe the baby was going through separation anxiety, and they were shocked to see that the nanny was abusing the child. And the dad says, even though we did everything we possibly could, people need to maintain their suspicion because, a stranger with a resume and a good reference is still a stranger in your house. I would always, always trust your gut. When you feel like something's wrong, it most likely is wrong. We have pretty good instincts as parents. So before you start, you need to ask yourself these questions. Would you buy a house without an inspection? Would you go to work and leave your door unlocked? If you were going to invest $20,000, would you do so based on just a referral from a stranger? I'm pretty sure the answer is no. Those are pretty rhetorical questions because all the things we just talked about obviously are important to you, and you wouldn't want anything to happen to those things. So why would you trust your child with somebody that you don't know? Why would you trust a reference from someone that you don't know? We all protect our things. Shouldn't we protect our little ones as much or more? Again, it's a puzzle that you have to put together, and it takes a little time to do so, but it's so worth it. I know it can be a bit overwhelming, but there's no need to be overwhelmed. Just take your time, follow the steps we're going to talk about here, and here's 5 through 10, so be ready. Step 5 is the offer and the contract. Honestly, I could spend 30 minutes alone just talking about contracts, so I'm not going to do that. Our contract is about 5 pages long, and it's grown over the years. We started out, it was about a page long, and then as things started happening with different situations that I was helping to mediate or mentor both parties through, then we added that to the contract because I could see where it could be an issue for another family. Contracts basically give both parties a clear understanding of what each one is expecting. If you don't have a contract, you're probably not going to have a successful relationship with your nanny. It needs to be written down in black and white to just be proactive and stop any miscommunication because it will happen. I would recommend going to your attorney. You can probably find these online. Just have something written down. It's super, super important. It's going to protect everybody involved. Step 6, emergency information. Anybody that watches your child should have the emergency form on each child. I recommend putting this on the refrigerator because in a situation where things really start to get scary and chaotic and children are crying and somebody's been injured, even your mom or dad or the babysitter that has been babysitting for you for years may not remember something as simple as your home address. So you want to have everything written down for every child right there where somebody can reach it if they need it. Helpful hints for getting started. That first day is so important. What I would recommend is to have your nanny come babysit a few times or a few days before that first day. It's going to help your child transition and feel comfortable with that person when you're gone and they're actually alone with the nanny. I would write the schedule down so that she knows what to expect. Take her beforehand to any preschool or lessons that your children go to and introduce her to the staff. Talk about drop-off, pick-up procedures. Don't forget to add her to that safe adults list so that she can pick up during carpool. A lot of parents forget this with school-age children, and the school staff is like, who is this person? I can't let you go. I know, I've been there on that end too. You want to discuss your way of doing tasks that she will be doing, and this seems really menial and or really not important. It is because over time, if your nanny continues to do something that is sort of annoying or becomes a pet peeve of yours, if you don't tell her how to correct that, or not even correct it, but how to do it your way, it just becomes a problem later on. You want to let her know what the house rules are, any rules you have about screen time, if they're even allowed to have screen time, information for her about naps and what snacks they like, those kind of things. I would allow extra time that first morning so that she can feel comfortable. She doesn't want to be rushed if she has questions to questions to ask you. So you want to have enough time to be able to sit down with her and answer any of those questions on that first day. It's crucial that they get off to a good start. Step 8 is to kind of realize that you have a real person that is your nanny. So when I say realistic versus perfect, everybody has in their mind this Mary Poppins person that's going to do everything right, is never going to have to ask questions, is going to be there every day on time, is never going to be sick, is never going to have a family emergency. But folks, you're not dealing with a perfect nanny or a perfect person. We're all human. She's going to get sick. A lot of times she's going to get sick because your kids are sick and gave her something. So you need to have a backup plan. You need to know what to do at 6:30 in the morning when you get that call. I'm sick. I've been up all night. My fever's 102 and I can't be there today. It inevitably is going to happen on a day, excuse me, you have a really important meeting, or maybe you're going out of town, or it always seems to happen at the most inconvenient time. So you want to have a backup plan. One, it's going to make your life a lot easier if you have something in place. Some of the daycares in the area, the child care centers like Bright Horizons, I know used to do this. You can do a drop-in day. You just have to set everything up ahead of time. And you call that center, and if they have availability that day, which most of the time they do, they sort of build that in, you can drop your kids off there for the day. And that gives you childcare. So if you have a backup plan, it makes everybody's life a lot easier, and the nanny doesn't feel guilty for not being there. Step 9 is warning signs. And, I hate to keep harping on this, but again, you got to pay attention to what's going on in your house. If you come home and your child has, diaper rash more often than normal, maybe they're unhappy, it seems to be a pattern, there's any attitude change, and that includes the nanny or your child, tasks are not being completed, the nanny becomes unreliable when that's totally out of character for her. She's more eager to leave, and she's late in the morning. That's a biggie right there. You want to take a step back. I mean, if you need to call me and say, this is what's going on, or if the nanny needs to call me and say, this is bugging me and I don't know how to talk to the family, I am here to do that. Again, folks, trust your gut on that one. Step 10, nanny evaluations. It all kind of goes back to communication. I recommend doing a nanny evaluation at 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, and a year. I know you're thinking, boy, that sounds like a lot of work. Let me tell you what that's going to do. If you do a nanny evaluations and you already have it scheduled for that time, your nanny is going to feel far more comfortable bringing to the table any concerns that she has. It's going to give you the opportunity to open up that line of communication. Susan, I really like the way that you're doing this. It's great. The kids love you. You just exceed our expectations here, but I'd like to see a little more of this. Or how do you feel about this? Do you feel like you're doing the best that you can do in this area? And vice versa. Gives her the opportunity in a non-threatening situation to voice her opinion of things that she'd like to see done differently, and it just keeps that communication open. And I'd keep a copy, give her a copy, so at the next evaluation, you can pull that out and say, hey, this is where we were, this is where we are now, things are great, or we need to continue to work on this, or I'd like to see more of this implemented in your day. It really, really helps for a successful nanny placement. Everybody's goal when a nanny is hired and the nanny accepts a position, everyone's goal is a common goal. We want the children to be happy, we want the nanny to be happy, and we want the parents to be happy. That really is going to give you a nanny that's going to stay with your family, feel comfortable with your children, and vice versa. You want those kids to be with somebody that cares about them, that's going to keep them safe, and that's not going to leave in 2 months because you then have to start the process all over again. Moms and dads, their safety is in your hands, and it really is super important that you take the steps necessary to do the right thing for your children. I see on social media every day, my babysitter fell through for tomorrow. Is there anybody in the area that can come help me out? And I just cringe every time I hear that. Folks, we don't know who is on the other side of that screen when they're answering the ads that are on social media. Until you take the time to completely check their references, meet them, spend some time with them, do that background check, kind of check all the boxes, you just don't want to put your child in that situation. So basically, we as an agency saw a need. The need was to fill that gap between agencies that literally cost thousands and parents that are trying to go it alone because, frankly, a lot of them are just confused and they don't know what to do next or how to do it or how much does it cost or, what's good information. So we figured out quickly, knowledge is power. We decided to basically take a step back and help folks that sort of fell in that gap of trying to do it by themselves because social media is so big right now. So what we do is walk parents through the process, very detailed and step by step. We do provide complete background screenings, and we give you a PDF report of everything that we do. Each step that we talked about today is included in great detail to prevent any miscommunication. Honestly, it's just to fill in the blanks. And again, we're here for ongoing support. So if you have an issue that you need a third party to kind of help you guide you through it, offer advice, this has been my experience, maybe this would work, we're here to do that, and that's huge. All for less than what most nanny application fees are. Most nanny agent application fees tend to run anywhere from about $150 to $300. And what we offer you is all of that for only $199. So you get the complete background check as well as the complete startup package, and it is everything that you need. The background check alone is on our website for $97. That's what we typically charge. And the starter packet is $349 on our website right now. So we do offer you a really good deal because we see that there is a need and we want to help you because it's really important to us that you take these steps so that your children are safe. A recap of what's included. Again, we help you with the post for social media. We even offer examples. We give you the interview questions that we used as an agency. The helpful hints for getting started, that's tongue twister. We provide you the emergency contact form so that all you have to do is fill it out. The contracts, which were actually written by our attorney, so that's, that in and of itself is a huge value. The nanny evaluations, again, you just fill it out. Warning signs that your nanny may not be happy. The background check with the PDF copies. We can also help you with payroll if you need that. We've got third-party folks that we work with that do a phenomenal job. They're specialists, and they do a great job at what they do. And again, we're here for that ongoing support. Everything that a nanny agency offers less than the cost of an application fee, and we know because we've charged thousands for the same information for years and have done very well. The cool thing here, folks, is that once you've got the process and once you've got the information, you can use it over and over, again and again, for each nanny or babysitter that you hire. So we're going to take just a couple of minutes and then we're going to be finished. I'm going to answer some of the questions that I get asked the most. The first is, what is the difference in a nanny and a babysitter? And quite frankly, a nanny is somebody that is going to work with you consistently, could be part-time or could be full-time, whereas a babysitter is used on an as-needed basis. How long does it take to find a nanny? That's the million-dollar question. I'm going to say it gets a little tricky because most of the nannies that are looking for jobs now need to start work within the next couple of 3 weeks. So when you start looking too far down the road, you've got nannies that you may think are awesome, that check out really well, but they can't wait 2 months to start a new position. So I always tell folks 2 to 6 weeks is a good amount of time. Even at that 6-week mark, you could be, it could get a little sticky with that nanny not being able to wait that long. How much do nannies cost? It's going to depend on the market that you're in. And I hate to be so vague about that, but it's true. I would say hop on social media, into parent groups. How much do nannies cost in this area? What are you paying now? How experienced is your nanny? Get some of that information, or call your local nanny agency, because really it is going to depend on the market that you're in as to what that nanny is going to charge. Should nannies be paid overtime? If your nanny is paid hourly and she has a set amount of hours and she works past those hours, yes, she should be paid overtime. If you set your contract agreement or your work agreement up that she is basically on a salary, then overtime is not typically paid. But you may want to chat with me about that if you have a unique situation, because you don't want it to kind of get into a situation where your nanny feels like she's being taken advantage of. So you have to be really careful with that one. The last question, and I get this all the time. I wish I had $1 for every time I've been asked this question. Can't I just 1099 her at the end of the year? No, unfortunately you can't. She is an employee. You tell her when to be there. You tell her what to do. You tell her what time to leave. And basically you tell her what the salary is. And Uncle Sam does not look at that in any way, shape, form, or fashion as a 1099. So you can actually be penalized for that if she's not, in a W-2 status. So hopefully, I know this was a lot of information, and I hope I didn't talk too fast. Hopefully you gained some insight and feel a little more educated about the process. I'm certainly here if you have any questions. Our website is nannyservice.biz. Feel free to hop online and take a look at our website. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to let us know. The packet, again, includes one nanny screening and all of the information that we just discussed, and it's an instant download. So you can get started as quickly as you need to. Thank you so much, and have a great day, and good luck with your nanny search.